I did forget to mention that. It was just a comment on why the book refers to the Northern Kingdom as Ephraim. Yeah, maybe transition. And one of the reasons is, because Jeroboam is the first is from the tribe of Ephraim. Yeah, Jeroboam the first is from the tribe of Ephraim. He is the reason there is any other northern kingdom at all. So I think that's one of the big reasons as to why, and it's like one of the biggest tribes. Not really land-wise, but people-wise, for the northern kingdom. Yes.
I could have looked it up, but I didn't, so maybe no one can tell me. There are some places where they're mentioned again and again, like Gilead, Gilgal, and Gibeah. And I wonder what happened there, because they're at least two of them, they're repeatedly mentioned.
I honestly didn't have time to look it up, but I also had a similar question. If Benny or Manu have an answer to that, then that'd be nice.
So, for example, in chapter 9, verse 15, it says, the Lord says, your wickedness was already seen in Gilgal. There I started to hate you, to hate them.
Isn't that the place, one of the places where they set up a golden calf for worship? Okay, but Bethel is pretty close to Gilgal.
Gilgal was already mentioned in one of the other prophets.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was Amos maybe who went up to preach at Bethel. And one explanation that I saw there was that it was places where God had done something important in their own history. Bethel, of course, was Jacob, and Gilgal I somehow connected with Joshua in my mind, I'm not quite sure. But I think it was some significant places in their history where they started worshipping idols then.
Gilgal's near Jericho.
Yeah, it's right next to Jericho. So.
Maybe that's where they crossed the Jordan and then set up like some kind of memorial or something. But this really is the perfect kind of question to look up on Bible dictionary.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
Let's look up Gilgal.
I forgot, and now I just came back.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
It's always worth a try.
Gibeah and Gilgal.
Gibeah has something to do with Saul, right? Saul.
So since in 10 verse 9 it says, since the days of Gibeah hast du Schuld auf dich geladen. Yeah. So it seems to make, I don't know, some significance.
For Gilead? Or Gilgal, sorry. Gilgal. We get to do Bible study right now.
Yeah, a couple more if you want to grab another dictionary and look something up as well. We got some time right now.
Yeah. Anybody looking up?
You got it.
Cool. While they look things up.
It's the place where they were circumcised again.
In Joshua?
Yeah, in Joshua 5:9.
Oh, bad.
That's where they said after they crossed the Jordan.
So did their wickedness start as soon as they crossed over the Jordan?
Do you know anything about the name Gomer?
The fast sacrifice of Saul was in Gilgal, like when he lost his kingship.
No.
So all the bad things that happened to Saul were in Gilgal.
Yeah, and Gibeah at first appeared in Judges 1920 as the site of a crime of lewdness and obscenity. All the children of Israel came together to punish Gibeah for its crimes.
This one Benjamin though. For
Mhm.
the Benjamites, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a city belonging to Benjamin.
And fought against.
So Gilgal could be, I think, viewed as the beginning of failure of all kings. When Saul, all his failures were in Gilgal. So I would say that seems to be, I think that comes out.
That's good. With the question about Gomer, I never did actually look up the name, but we know that names do often always have some sort of meaning, so it's another thing that would be, that you could easily look up and see if there's a nice interpretation to have with that. I'm not going to be surprised though if it does mean something like harlot or prostitute or something. But it'd be interesting.
Earlier you looked it up. Or did you look it up?
About like the
The
Gomer?
name Gomer?
The unfaithful.
Faithful?
The unfaithful.
Unfaithful.
Unfaithful. Yeah. Which also may be a support in being like, it's just a metaphor. Or does God just like to play with words and names?
I would generally wanted to add something to the teaching.
Yeah.
A point for why things could be just metaphorical and not really happening when God tells a prophet to do something. If you just think about that Ezekiel is supposed to lay more than a year on one side of his body, well, after a few days you start bleeding out of your body for laying on one side. Like, it doesn't even take more than a week, and he had to lay more than a year just on that one side. So that's why people are like, okay, probably that didn't happen. Of course, God can do a miracle and be like, okay, no, he won't start bleeding. I'll keep all of his body functions working, but that would be an approach why people are like, he can't really lay more than a year in the middle of the street on one side. Sorry, that's preposterous. So, just so you know why people are generally skeptical about, is God really asking that? I don't think so. Yeah. You can decide for yourself what you want to believe in.
In chapter 1, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the day of Jezreel like when Israel and Judah like unite again?
The day of Jezreel? We're almost gonna do this.
What verse is
I
that?
don't.
It's 11, the last verse.
We don't
Yeah.
even have 111.
The people of Judah and Israel will unite together. They will choose a leader. Yeah, and this will be the day of Jezreel.
We should find a way eventually to get one of those.
Jezreel means God plants. Yeah, when God will again plant his people in his land.
Where is it written?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, just from the word meaning, like God plans, it's just a nice way to reference that this will be the day like that God like restores and will plant again his people in the land.
In Jezreel?
No. I think it's like more with the meaning of the name. But we'll see what more information we can get.
It's chapter 2.
Wish I knew what God's written under. Where is it? Where is it mentioned in the Bible? That was
Yeah, let's
Here?
do one.
In his first child was called Jezreel.
111.
Verse
No, it's before 2.
Is it related to verse 5 when it mentions the
The end of
Jezreel Valley?
They will all rejoice.
Yeah, I will break its military power in the Jezreel Valley. Is there still the English one over there?
Yes. Right down in the mountains of Judah, birthplace of one of the wives of David, and a town in the area of Issachar.
Also where, what's her name, was eaten by dogs. Jezebel. Goats?
By dogs.
It's just built eaten by the dogs in Jezreel. So I was thinking too.
Maybe because the dogs eat everything.
It is where the vineyard is that Ahab, Jezebel planted, got. Yeah, it seems like it was there. The killing of Jezebel.
That's what I thought too.
Hosea.
Yeah, Jezebel was killed there.
Gomer's first child was Jezreel.
Yeah, and it's maybe the first one of Hosea.
Yeah, and that was like a fulfillment of the Jesus Christ. Yeah, to avenge the murders committed at Jezreel.
Oh, and it's also an area.
It's an area, it's a name,
Yeah, it's like
Thanks for the
1,000 things.
it's a lot of things. But yeah, but like with the firstborn, like with it being Jezreel, it's a like fulfillment to avenge the murders that were committed. For I am about to punish King Jehu, who's like is like prophetically used. It's so funny how they do that. Names and stuff. I don't know if that answers the question, but any other topics or anything you just want to talk about or that you learned?
I don't know if I missed this, but like you said that Hosea was the author of this.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we think that he was writing this? Like was this kind of like he was writing it down as it happened, or like afterwards and he wrote it down, or and then how would it, like it was a message people, I don't
Mhm.
know, someone didn't record it, his life down, he wrote it down himself, or,
It's a
yeah.
good question. Like also in general with the prophets, because, you know, these are things that they, you know, say and then are written. But I think it is always kind of a question of when exactly the prophecies were decided to be written down. Yeah, so I don't really know, but if, again, Benny or Manu have any more insight on when exactly or how exactly, or, you know, I mean, often people did have scribes to write things down for them, but usually they were noted at some point, but they were first spoken then written. And then it's usually throughout like years of time, you know, so like these, like certain things could have been like, been years and years apart from one another. When they were being spoken out, and then at one point then were written and compiled all together for the message.
Mhm.
Yeah, which will be something that's it, like in general for the prophets, from what I remember. Any other insight about how it worked?
I did not hear the question, and all your answer didn't give me the question.
Basically, like with Hosea being the author, like was it something that was like written down, like, you know, right away, or was it something that was,
Those are things that the person who did the talking should know and not doing that. If you know people who are teaching about it, then you
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I know. I was just
I
saying.
agree with everything that can be
Okay.
said about it.
I was like, is there any more to add to that? Because that's all like kind of the knowledge that I know about the relationship between with the prophets and it actually getting written down and compiled into a book.
Like with Hosea, for example, there's not really any doubt that he wrote it or had it written down himself. And probably not too long after it all happened, but it could be that it basically records some of his sermons or some of his prophecies over a longer period of time. And yeah, like you said, some of the prophets actually had a scribe, like Jeremiah. You'll read about the scribe; he actually plays a role in the book. But with someone like Hosea, we don't know whether he wrote it himself or whether someone wrote it down as he gave these prophecies or how it happened exactly.
Yeah, so he's the author more in the sense that these are his words,
Yeah.
and not necessarily he hand wrote it himself.
Yeah, because he's speaking in third person then sometimes.
Yeah, because like the prophet's role was speaking out to the people, for the most part, to give the message, to show a message. They are very, they're much more like interactive and making an impact, with the people.
Is he mentioned anywhere else in the Bible? Like, do we know anything more about him as a person? Like, I mean, obviously we know he was prophetic.
Not that I know of. From what I've read, there's not a lot of references that we can find about him, except for from this book. You can always dig deeper. So that's what I read about him.
He's quoted in Romans, so that's
Well,
the only other time. That's the only other time that Hosea actually appears in the Bible, besides in Hosea, in the book of Hosea itself.
Yeah, but not like in Kings or Samuel or anything.
I
This
just
is
did a
not
quick
mentioned.
word search, which is something you can always do,
Yeah.
like on Bible server or something, and it does not say anywhere else.
If you do, let me know if that'd be interesting. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Guys feel good about Hosea? Give you a little break from super challenging things. Hopefully this was refreshing, giving some life, getting some information.
What were prostitutes like? What did society think of prostitutes at that time? Do you know? I mean, obviously maybe not so highly, but do you know?
Not so what?
Maybe they were not looked on so highly, but I don't know.
I think it depends because, I mean, cult, like, especially being like a cult prostitute, you know, I think was probably seemed very normal, you know, for like, I think, you know, I mean, of course for like, you know, the Israelites, like that wasn't a positive thing, but I think for the culture, it probably wasn't, yeah, I don't think it was frowned upon.
I don't think
At
it was
all.
frowned upon, but it was also not the
I don't
thing
think it was
that
honored.
that you wanted because you want kids, you want family.
Yeah,
You-
in
like
that
that
sense,
is-
yeah.
You're kind of cursed when you don't have family, but
Mhm.
if you are a prostitute, you're not going to get married.
Yeah, that's true.
Because no husband wants his wife to whore around and sleep with other guys.
Mhm.
So basically it's like the solution that if nobody wants to marry you, probably you could do that and still survive and manage, but yeah, it's like not the nice option.
Yeah, I mean, if you were just a like prostitute out of like that kind of like profession, like how it kind of, there's like kind of like picture of Gomer, you know, that she, you know, kind of got all these nice things from the men that she was involved with, and you know, she was able to get nice jewelry and nice clothing and, you know, things like that. But then there's also then the cult prostitutes, and I feel like in the cult prostitution area, they wouldn't be looked down upon because they were serving the gods.
Yeah,
You know, so at least like with the cult prostitution and stuff like that, I definitely don't think there was a negative association with that. It could have even just been, it even could have been praised or just normal, you know, because they were doing what they needed to do to, you know, worship gods and to, you know, bring make their land fruitful and bring success to their land, or,
maybe
you know.
maybe even viewed as a noble,
Yeah.
self-sacrificing thing.
I think, yeah, I think it could have been for at least like the cult prostitutes. Mm-hmm.
I have a question, like maybe you can,
No, I had a question to that. But
okay, you can.
I wanted just to ask what then the difference is to the temple prostitutes, where they're all the time speaking about them kings. Are these the one they slept with virgins so the land gets fruitful, or is these different ones?
I would say probably. But,
I didn't understand the question. You were speaking too quietly, sorry.
The temple prostitutes, were these the ones who slept like with virgins to get like fruitful land, or what was the difference of that to normal prostitutes?
I think sleeping with everybody, like, okay, I don't know too much, so I can't give too much of an answer. But
I mean, I would say probably like I don't think the temple prostitutes had, you know, like they did it as a form of worship to the gods. This wasn't like a self-interested or a survival thing. It was a form of worship.
So cult prostitute and temple prostitute, it's the same.
basically.
Yeah, basically.
I have like a thought about all this because for me it's hard to understand kind of it like how God can make a marriage between a prophet and a prostitute, because yes, it's like what you were saying, like what the society can say if God wants to use this guy. What is the concept that the people will say about him, and
Yeah.
and how he could handle with that. Maybe they will say, look at this teaching about God and that stuff, and he's married with a prostitute. And yeah, also it's like maybe God can, well, also I can imagine also can be maybe, well, metaphor or something. So it's like, well, I understand that maybe it could be but also I am getting like this like as a metaphor, but also God could like I don't know how to explain, but it's like it will be easier that, for example, like Hosea can prophesy through this parable instead of he get married with a prophet. Yeah, it's like it's funny and yes, but well, it's hard to understand.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's definitely kind of like a struggle to like, oh, look at God. Would God actually ask somebody to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we said that one of the tests for a prophet was how they lived their own life,
Right.
moral test,
Yeah.
right? But on the other hand, I mean, how far is God willing to go to achieve this shock value?
Exactly.
Because God's main point is, you find it shocking that a prophet marries a prostitute? Well, that is what I, God, have done when I married you. Yeah, and so it's a very strong point, and so I definitely don't think that Hosea sinned by marrying this prostitute. It was a marriage. The one who was unfaithful was the woman, that he married. And so I don't think it was something that society would have been like, that tarnishes him too much necessarily.
But the thing is, like, I think, like, well, like, he is explaining, okay, like, in a front on a crown or something like that, okay, this is, I get married with a prostitute, this is what the Lord is saying, like, I want to show you this and this and this. For me, it's hard to understand that, but yes,
I don't think that he would have necessarily preached like, I married a prostitute to show you, but more like, see how I'm married to a prostitute? So is God married to you, and you are the prostitute.
Even that is hard for me
I think that
understand.
it's a very, but it makes a difference on the view where it's like, if you're getting preached to, hearing, oh, I married a prostitute because of you, because God told me, I don't think that he would actually have said that to the people, personally. I feel like that makes a big difference on how the message comes across. But also I want to agree with the point that Manu just said, that it's, he was married to the woman, so there was nothing wrong about his act,
Right.
generally. The weird, like, he was not just sleeping with a whore, he was married to her. He bound him, tied himself just to her, so that made his act completely legitimate and
But kind of
righteous.
unexplainable. Why would someone do that?
Right.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
That's exactly the point that God is making.
Yes.
But
It's-
like Kamille said, you can believe either way about this. It doesn't really change the meaning, whether you believe that he actually married her or that he just used it as a metaphor. The point is still the same that he's making.
I would say my point, if I would not believe that he actually married her, it would be because I have a hard time with the fact believing that God is putting him in a situation where he will get hurt over and over and over again with his wife running away from him. Like, that will be very painful for the prophet, and that's why I'm like, maybe it was just making a point, maybe it was just a metaphor and he didn't actually do it, because God doesn't want to push him into the pain. But
God
sometimes pushes us into pain, so
We can continue this conversation in lunch if you would like, but you know me, I'm a fan of lunch, so I'm going to close up this time.
All right.
And also honor the kitchen staff because they also have been